it looks like we have some new faces, so I'm really excited about this. Just to give you a quick rundown of the way the presentation will work, we'll go around the room and do introductions so you all know who's in the room here and what everybody does. And then we'll turn things over to ThirdSpace. And then when ThirdSpace wraps up their presentation, it's your turn as the audience to ask your questions, and you'll get a chance to play a little friendly Shark Tank here. And then at the end of the presentation, where's your partner?
Zach's right.
Zach's right there. Okay. They'll be around to answer your questions one-on-one if you have anything additional. And as always, we're really thankful for our sponsors. We have Field 59 back here. They've been with us since the beginning, and they provide a live stream and video recording of every 1MC presentation. It's a great value add for our presenters because they get to take home a recording of today and all the questions that they were asked. But it's also an opportunity for those that can't make it out to 1 Million Cups to watch and be involved. And then we have the library that's donated this space. We have our latest sponsor for the next 6 months is Old National Bank, previously Anchor Bank, and they provide the coffee here from Crescendo, so we're really thankful to have them here. And if you have not signed up for our newsletter, I would encourage you to do so. Just go to our website, there's a little link, you can sign up. We only send it out once a week, and we include the upcoming presenters along with any happenings that are going on in the community and in the startup space here. So if you ever have an announcement that you want to make to our group, if you just shoot me an email, I can help facilitate that for you. So to kick off introductions, I'm Rachel Neal. I'm with Carex Consulting Group, and I'm also one of the organizers at 1 Million Cups.
All right, I'm Steve Clodd, co-founder of 32 Auctions, which is a platform for hosting and managing silent auction fundraisers.
I'm Doug Baker. I am an account manager with Teamsoft, a local staffing company.
Hi everyone, I'm Zach Blumenfeld with ThirdSpace. We're excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Oh, hi, I'm Susie Onkel, Program Director of Merlin Ventures.
Hey guys, Nick Lombardino, co-founder of Atlas Providers and business development at Farwell.
Everybody, my name is Lee Lazar. I'm a commercial insurance agent with Associated Agencies. Typically start my mornings here on Wednesdays, and this is the first time I heard about 1 Million Cups, so excited to be here.
So welcome.
My name is Derek Gebler. I'm with Field 59. We're a software as a service for media companies for video services that would be live streaming as well as video on demand.
I'm Dan Anderson with Baker Tilly.
Travis Human, owner of Stray Cat Bicycles.
Brian Robertson, software sales and marketing with special interest in startups, so I'm happy to always share my advice with startups.
I'm Bart Halderson, tax manager at BDO.
Mitch DeWitt, I'm with Merrill Lynch, so we help families and businesses create a financial strategy.
Seth Braddock, co-founder of Kilter Wellness Company.
Matt Duffy, the COO with QTI Group.
Andrew Gonzalez with Old National Bank, and I'm a commercial lender.
Morning, Alex Ryan with Prairie Light Solar, a solar energy consulting firm.
Eric Lawrenson, Capital Times.
Sheldon with Helpback Ventures. I'm Drew Corson, I'm an attorney at Matter Shane, one of the organizers of America.
I'm on. All right. Thanks everyone for coming out today. I'm Scott Quall with ThirdSpace. I want to start off by asking a question, or maybe a couple of questions here. Who has ever felt, when at your day job, sort of isolated or alone, or a little bit disconnected from your colleagues, your teammates? Or maybe, yeah, you can raise your hand. I mean, it's like Vegas. It's a safe place. I mean, to let it out. A little bit of therapy too. You know, maybe you feel lonely and silent. I mean, have you ever felt that way where you're kind of walking down the halls and it's like, I'm just here, I'm doing my job, I'm on the treadmill, I'm doing my thing, I get paid. Or maybe you feel as if the work that you're doing is not valued by your management, or they're not validating your ideas. Not saying every idea has to be forwarded, but at least you don't feel like they're necessarily listening to you. Well, that's a pretty common problem. I mean, when we started developing ThirdSpace and thinking about, this ideas and what's this problem, what's it going to solve, we heard this again and again from about 200 to 250 other companies that we talked to and other employees. And what's curious is that, this is something that Forbes has flagged as a core issue, and it really revolves around culture. And research is showing that at any time, you've got about half of your workforce actively disengaged. So they are not showing up to work. I mean, the light's on, but nobody's home. And then you have a percentage who's, they're actually disengaged, so they're working against you. I mean, they're swimming against the stream. They're doing more than stealing office supplies. So, I mean, this is a burning issue that's out there right now. And this was something that, you know, I felt it before, and I really wanted to solve that problem. And the story is, I started out working with Rev EHR. This is from my old company, Ronin. And Rev had come to me and said, hey, can you build a thing for us that helps us with our culture as we grow? We're feeling very disconnected. We're feeling like, you know, as we've gone from 30 to 70 to 250 employees, Scott Jens, the founder of Rev, he's like, I don't know employee number 23 anymore. He's like, I don't know number 73. I used to know everyone. Is there a way to really bring us together? So that was kind of the start of this idea, along with all this feedback that came from other companies and organizations. So we started thinking about the solution and turning it around in our head. I went to self-determination theory. We had an individual on our team who helped with our design. He's got a PhD in psychology down at the University of Chicago. And we thought a lot about, you know, what really kindles the fire in people's belly. And so happens, you know, self-determination theory has been around since the late 60s. They've been studying it a lot. And when you inject autonomy, connection, and mastery into a system, you give people the opportunity for autonomy. It doesn't mean they have to be the boss, but they feel like they're in control of their own destiny. And then you give them an opportunity to connect with each other, which is really important. The idea that you don't have to be everyone's best friend, but you really want to feel connected to your colleagues. You want to feel connected to the vision of the organization. You want to feel connected to superordinate goals, something bigger than yourselves. That really matters. And then the idea of mastery. So you're not just going in and doing a job, you're doing something that matters to other people, that matters to you. You're improving yourself, you're improving the world around you, you're improving kind of your sphere. That is a really critical thing. And when you get all those together, it uniquely motivates people in ways beyond money. And you've probably seen the Daniel Pink video where he talks about money. And really what he's getting at is self-determination theory. So that's kind of the underpinning theory of what we were trying to achieve. And we sort of manifest this in the product through various tools or mechanics. And we use a product called the Journey Map, or a feature called the Journey Map. We have this feature called Spaces and this feature called the Hive Mind. And I'll get into these in a little bit. But in a nutshell, that's sort of what we were going at. So a lot of people ask, well, hey, what the heck's a ThirdSpace anyway? So the first picture in the kind of upper left there, we're familiar with that. That's the cube farm, right? The soulless cube farm where all the corporate zombies kind of go every day and do their thing. And I mean, go to the Jeff building. That's what that's like, going over to those offices. And I mean, people really do feel empty and alone. And those environments even reflect that. They isolate you. They're designed to isolate you. But then companies have built these kind of funky in-between spaces. You got Quick in there with this vault. You've got Tom's, you know, they make healthcare products. They got that slide, and then Citrix has this thing that looks like a lounge. I mean, I want to order a cocktail there, you know, just kind of hang out. And then Red Ventures looks like a resort. I mean, it looks like something you'd see, you know, at the Dells with fireplaces and everything. And third spaces are unique spaces. So first space is typically where you form your relationships. So that's like your home or your, you know, where you live, and you connect with human beings there and enjoy and share and that sort of thing. But then second space was work. And very often those things never blended at all, right? You had your work life, you had your family life, and when you put the keys in the car and headed to work, I mean, there was this transition that happened. But then as, you know, we've got Wi-Fi and as, you know, we have millennials coming into the workforce, these other spaces started to emerge, like coffee shops or working, you know, on the train or working out in an open space that has Wi-Fi. These kind of funky in-between spaces where it's work and play, connection, work again, you know, interaction. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Pinterest, I'm taking pictures, I'm uploading, I'm doing some more work. That really created a third space. So, like, that's kind of what we want. We wanted to bring this physical thing into a digital product and hopefully bring people together. And again, that's a tall order to do, but again, this is really going into the design stew pot of what we were trying to build. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of what a third space is and what we're trying to achieve. And again, the conceptual design is really the idea of autonomy, mastery, connection. And then, because I came from the gaming industry, I'm like, an interesting glue beyond all that is adding fun. And if you can get people in a state of play, or they don't necessarily have to be playing a game, but the idea that they're in a kind of a whimsical state of mind, then they're going to be very creative, they're going to be innovative, they're going to be challenging each other, they're going to be thinking new thoughts, and they're going to be doing so in an enjoyable way. And next thing you know, it's, you know, beyond 5 o'clock, and they're still working hard and enjoying what they do. So fun, I think, is a really integral part of what we're trying to achieve with ThirdSpace. So the product is cloud-based. It's mobile web. We've got Android and iOS version. And again, the kind of the three pillars of it really are this journey map, Spaces, and what we're calling the brain now. And the brain is all about sort of capturing institutional knowledge. So Spaces is a lot like, it's very similar to probably other social platforms that you're familiar with. And that's intentional because we want the onboarding of the product to be really familiar. Someone can go in there and immediately start using it. They're not going to launch missiles or anything like that. If they hit the wrong thing, they're just going to go in and do it. And Spaces are interesting because if I tell you, hey, we're going to, the bar after work, that space, that context creates sort of an unsaid way of how you might communicate, right? If you're in church or in synagogue or something, that creates a context about how you're going to communicate, right? If you're at mom's house, that's different than at your buddy's house. So Spaces uniquely allow us to modulate how we interact with each other. So that's what we were trying to integrate into the system. You have different spaces, which just by their definition allow you to interact privately, publicly. This is more of a formal space. This is going to be more of a place for management to sort of gather and discuss issues. But then importantly, it's a place where we have relationships. We really encourage bringing the outside in, and the place where there's empathy. So a place where we feel and share ideas and really be that sort of whole dimension of a person that we are, not just the one-dimensional person that you typically get through email or some other mediums of exchange. Then the idea is Brain. So Brain is actually still in development, but a problem that came up a lot is, Mary wins the lottery. I mean, she was a pillar in the organization. She's gone now. What are we going to do? Now, the cost to rehire someone who's left an organization is, stats differ, but it's roughly 4x their annual salary. It's very expensive to hire someone. So what if there's a way to sort of capture Mary's knowledge before she left and put it someplace? Now, you can't ask someone to document their job. They're just never going to do it. But during this process of onboarding or coming into an organization or starting a new project, people are always asking a lot of questions. They're really curious. They're wondering about, who do I go to for this? What about that? How do I do this? So, and as they're doing that, again, they're talking about their kids, they're talking about the game or whatever. So if you could almost map out the conversation bubbles as they're moving along, you've got work, you've got personal stuff, work, personal stuff, work. What if you could capture some of that really interesting kind of gold that is happening through that interaction, through that learning, and through that training and put it someplace? So that's what we're trying to do with Brains. Like, how do you capture that institutional knowledge, that hive mind? And that's a tough problem to solve. So we've been actually working on that design for a long time, and we're going to start going live with that in January. Is really the first push. We have a version 1 of that. It hasn't really achieved the vision of what we want, but that's where we're going. So Brain is, I think, going to solve a lot of problems. I think it's a big need. We've heard a lot, but really getting it so it's a humanistic product or a humanistic solution to a real problem is really, I think it's very nuanced, and that's what we're really trying to go for. And then the last key thing is this idea of a journey map, which gives a context and a bridge and a feeling of progress. This is kind of a very gamey aspect of what we've built. And a lot of times people start in a company and it's like, oh, here's your HR paperwork, get it filled out. There's your cubicle, there's the bathrooms, get to work. And then what? That's onboarding typically. But onboarding is really something that happens throughout the course of your time at a company. You're always onboarding to new initiatives. There's new projects, new customers. And you're meeting new people all the time, but there's not really a guide to sort of help you on that path. And yeah, there's career pathing, and sometimes HR sits down with you and says, what do you want to take some classes next year? But this really creates a map for you so that you understand kind of where you're going and where you want to be, and your manager can assign stuff to you as well. But what's neat about it is a visual map. It creates a mosaic of you, and you can compare yourself to other people. You can see how you're doing. And some people shut down when they're given too much too soon. They'll see this big list and they get intimidated. They're like, whoa, and their cortisol levels go up. But what's interesting about Journey Map is that it kind of unveils itself to you as you're ready. So you might be challenged. Zach might challenge me, hey, go watch this TED Talk, or go read this book about sales or something like that. And then that tile appears for me, and then I can track my own progress, which is pretty neat. And these screenshots didn't turn out so well, but the idea of Spaces here, if you get some glare, but if you get kind of a look at that, you've got sort of the locations, you've got sort of the context. Zach posted something from his trip to London. He saw a ThirdSpace picture there. So, we're commenting on it, and kind of get excited about seeing that name, in London. Pretty cool. You've got chat channels, which is great because, you need that sort of one-to-one to one-to-many communication. Then we've got the idea of the brain, so something that we really want to save, we put it in a location that we can go back to, and it's very easily retrievable. And that's actually a picture of, this is from a Walking Dead space that people are talking about. So that's Negan down there. So the fact that it's Brain and Negan, no connection there, it just is what it is. And then we got the journey map. So this is what I said, it kind of creates this mosaic. So that the color of the tiles, you might have tiles that represent, say, community involvement. So maybe you have a United Way campaign going on, and you really want people to donate or volunteer or whatever it is. So these tiles can kind of appear, and you can see that as you progress, your journey map is actually going to grow. And some of those tiles, again, will appear when you're ready. And some of them you can challenge other people to, ice bucket challenges or whatever it might be, or want to challenge you to learn this new coding skill or whatever you want. But it's a visual way of guiding people as opposed to, oh, you're a 4 on a 5 scale. Like, oh, okay, that's meaningful to me. So, competition. So we've got a range of competition, and you've got Facebook has their new work product out. Jive Social is probably one that was early on our radar. They tend to be like all things to everyone. They do everything from project management to they've got kind of chat and everything. They're I think a public company, and they're really well funded. RoundPeg is very diagnostic. I like the RoundPeg product a lot, but it is very diagnostic. It really lacks the humanistic aspect of what we were trying to achieve in our product. And then you've got Slack, which it's a chat channel. I mean, it's better chat. We have chat in our product as well, but we see chat as really plumbing. I mean, it is what it is. It allows communication, it allows facilitation between individuals, but it wasn't built with the idea of creating culture. So our product, really, we want culture first. We want to create the primordial soup from which culture can emerge. And again, when you think about sort of those diagrams of autonomy, mastery, and support, that allows a good culture to happen, whereas Slack was just, hey, let's build a chat. It's better than other chats that are out there. And then our other competitor really is the status quo. I mean, you've got some people who think Hawaiian Shirt Friday is sufficient to build, a good culture. And that's sort of a superficial thing that, a lot of managers and organizations try to address. If we have cake and exposed brick and MacBooks and everything else, everyone's going to love to work here. And they might for a period of time. At the end of the day, people really want to feel like they're part of something that matters. And when they're part of something that matters, it doesn't matter all the other material things. Those things kind of go beside. And the work of blood, sweat, and tears. Our market size, we're really going after kind of the small business. Now, small business is really broadly defined. I mean, if you look at the actual definition, a 500-employee business is technically a small business. It seems pretty large. But what we've learned is that from our customers, right around 20 employees is where culture starts to become an issue. And if it's around 7 employees or 8 employees, 10, the manager, everyone kind of still knows each other. But usually around 20 is where things start getting slippery. And again, that varies with every company. Sometimes you have a very strong leader and they're able to solidify things. Maybe you have a lot of really strong self-starters, so maybe it's 25, but roughly 20. And then, it's sexy to sell to the big enterprises. We'd love to, have the Fortune 500s, but I mean, you die on the vine trying to sell to them. Right? Their procurement can take months, legal can take months. You've got IT that can take months to get through. So really, we want a software as a service product. We want it really easy to sell. We want companies to go on and say, hey, we'll take 30 licenses, and away they go. And we've had some early success. Rev 360 is using it. QTI is trialing it right now. And we've got a marketing company in Chicago, CZ, and they're using it for a small group. So we've got Rev, which is around 250, QTI I think is around 10, and then CZ is around, about a dozen? So yeah, so it's some different context there. Our founding team, we've got Zach Srinath as our engineer, and then Scott Jens. There's an article about him recently in the paper, and he's our angel and kind of our co-founder, and he founded Rev and originally came to me to kind of help solve this problem. So we're the band of brothers. And then, one of our favorite quotes here is that the culture eats strategy for breakfast. We believe that. But we also believe that, it eats technology and then also products for dinner and so forth. So, I mean, culture is really a core problem that we hope to solve. We love to bring it to other companies locally and then ultimately nationally. That's really the ultimate vision of what ThirdSpace is. And now I'll open it up for questions.
Great presentation. One other competitor I didn't really mention is Basecamp had built a tool called Know Your Company, which then they spun off outside of their business. How do you see them compared to what you're doing here?
I'm not familiar with Know Your Company,
Okay.
so I can't go feature by feature, but I think, again, the core thing is that we really want to be culture first. We want to bring the humanistic aspect of people back into the company. And I think a lot of organizations approach their solutions as, if we create better plumbing, if we create a better chat channel, or throw a bunch of features at it, that'll magically make this happen. We've culled a lot of features and ideas as a result of really wanting to keep to the core value of culture first. So the lens, or sort of litmus test for, are they really a competitor or not, or a direct competitor, is their design designed such that they're trying to improve culture? That's first and foremost for us. Again, as you sort of go out from culture, you do compete with them because we have similar features on chat, and maybe we do compete with Facebook. Because yeah, you can have cultures that emerge there, but that wasn't their intent necessarily when they built that product.
Do you see ThirdSpace as a long-term solution for companies, or more of a short to medium term where you come in, kind of reboot culture, and then it becomes ingrained and they kind of go their own direction? What's the vision?
Long-term, for sure. don't want them ever not using it. Yeah, I mean, it's got that mobile product, so with it, so I think it keeps people connected even outside the organization. So our vision is really, somebody wakes up and they're like, hey, what's going on? What's going on in our spaces? What's going on in the water cooler? What are people talking about? What's trending in there? And sort of warm them up to their day and make them excited again to come back into work. Hey, Joe.
What do you think your target company size is? Do you ever, ideally, are you in really large companies where people feel, let's say Epic has 10,000 employees right now, or is it more the mid-size? And do you worry about, with large companies, that there's too much happening at the water cooler, that people still don't feel connected?
We've tried to figure that one out. So we had a large client up in the Fox Valley area. They had about 4,500 employees, and they were difficult to get through. Even the smaller pilot group that we were trying to work with, they were about 100, and that was kind of strange at times. I think it would be great to have, the big Fortune 500s or the Epic-sized companies, but sometimes the thing that's driving their culture, if they have a really strong cult of personality and it's really top-down, that still might conflict with kind of the water cooler culture that's happening at the bottom. I think ultimately what we can do then is, what ThirdSpace can do is at least allow people to have a forum to connect with each other. So they may not necessarily feel connected with the leader of that organization, or maybe they don't feel connected with all the vision or what's happening for that year or whatever the initiatives might be. But at least if they feel like, hey, I really love working with Steve. I go to work every day because I love seeing his face every morning. He's awesome, right? That might make me come into work every day. Or I believe in the small project that I'm on. So I think ThirdSpace can really be a tool, at least on kind of an in the trenches level. And if it bubbles up then to the management team, the senior teams, I think that would be awesome. But we don't have data on that yet, but I think that would be great if it could. But I can't make that promise at this time.
I'm here in Madison, my company's in Chicago, my account team is literally scattered across 5 different cities. And when you were talking about the hive mind part, like, my whole company is completely siloed and uses ancient legacy software. Can that feature, does it already, or can it be built to be a more effective information sharing module?
Yes, that was actually, so Scott's company, Rev 360, they're completely virtual. There is no brick and mortar. Everyone works all over the US. And that was a core thing. It's like, yeah, we're using Skype, we're using Salesforce, we're using SharePoint. They had 7 or 8 different tools that they were using, and everyone was very siloed and disconnected from each other. So one of our targets is companies that are virtual or very disparate, located across a lot of geographic area, or they've gone through M&A activity, so now you're merging cultures, you want to bring people together, and then how do you get them to communicate more effectively, and then have a sense of permanency, and then also have a sense of, yeah, I belong to something other than just sort of, me and maybe my immediate work group. So absolutely, I think that's a strong yes on that.
Yeah, so do you have a sense of what the typical level of engagement is among a group of people? So let's say you have 30 people.
Mhm.
How many of those people would typically be engaged? Because you have different types of temperaments.
Yep.
Some people don't really do social that much, and they might not be on there that often. Other people would be totally in love with it. So what's kind of your balance of?
We're learning, so with our kind of our early customers, I think Rev is maybe about a 60% uptake right now.
It was almost up to 75, I think.
75, okay, so that's pretty good. QTI is a smaller group, and I think there's a natural tipping point where you get enough people in, and you know the old expression, nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd, right? They start, oh, what's going on here? But then there's also a switching cost of moving away from the tools that you're comfortable with. I mean, email for Gen Xer like me, everyone communicates with email. They store stuff in email, for God's sake. I mean, how do you draw someone out of email into a new system? So there is a hurdle to get over that. So there has to be enough value created within the system to start bringing people in. I think just putting like a cool thing out there and saying, oh, use it, it's kind of Field of Dreams. We'd love it if people just, whoa, just rush to it, but I don't necessarily think that's gonna happen. It takes a few early adopters to get in there. It probably follows that same kind of adoption curve. People start hearing about it, and the next thing you know, oh, that was this ThirdSpace thing that everyone's using. I guess I should switch. And we have seen email usage actually drop, which, yay for that. I mean, that alone is a win in my book. That people start communicating through this and sharing and saving and storing their stuff in ThirdSpace as opposed to 7 or 8 other tools. But you're right, I think there probably is a natural, you know, some of the older, more senior people might be a little more hesitant to just gravitate towards it unless there's a reason for them to go there. So again, it's a space where you can give them a reason to go there. Maybe they like talking about their kids or talking about their hobbies. Encourage that. And we really want companies and organizations to encourage people to bring the outside in. I think that's a really strong piece that will draw people into a product and keep them in that company and keep them engaged, feel like you're part of something.
Kind of along his lines, I was really interested in the Brain product, but I was kind of diving a little bit deeper. Do you see it as kind of like a smart search tool eventually where you have a product that's kind of listening to conversations and it can sort things into different kind of departments within a company so that somebody can, let's say they're working on a specific project and they don't know the answer, and somebody that's already left the organization worked on a similar problem, they can get that information a lot easier.
I think so. I mean, what gives information value is, I mean, it has an intrinsic value to it because it's, you know, useful for something, but oftentimes it's like who said it? Like, oh, you know, Bob says this and Bob's like the authority on, you know, our engineering. So if Bob said it, you know it's gold. Or, you know, the conversation or the context that was set in sometimes gives it value as well. So having like a reputation within the system, I think also makes that information bubble up. So I think the idea is like, how do you make information retrievable in a way that isn't just kind of a search field? You know, we've got that now. Google does it. We don't want to compete with Google. But how do you make it more natural in a way that like, oh, I remember this conversation I had with Dan. He was talking about this, and then by searching Dan or by searching kind of around that conversation, I'm able to easily get to that. And again, we're trying to figure out like what does that look like in the design. We have some early versions of what this might look like, but nothing is like solidified yet. But by January, end of January, I think we should be close. Shobin?
Did you tell us your pricing? What's your model?
$10 per user per month is kind of the test price, and some people are like, oh, that's pretty reasonable. Others are like, ooh, you know. So you think about it, if you've got 5,000 users, you know, it gets pretty expensive, but you know, I might argue that some companies spend more on toilet paper every month than they do on, you know, software to, you know, make their employees feel like they're connected to each other. But, you know, I think that's all negotiable, especially at enterprise level. But, you know, we're still sort of feeling it out. And I think $10 is sort of a, you know, it's cheaper than some and more expensive than others. Some HR enterprise software is ungodly expensive. And this is sort of easy in, easy out. You can use it. You're not on any long-term contract, but if you want to do a long-term contract with us, you know, I think we could discount as well.
Scott, is there a services component of revenue at the front end? You know, like onboarding, you have to consult with the client?
We have been.
How to use it best?
We have been, I mean, because we're sort of at a learning state with the client as well, watching how they use it. But ultimately, like, we love it if people just sign up and use it and just start going, and it's sort of self-explanatory. And some of the features are, Journey Map requires a little more explanation. We've been spending time with QTI, explaining Journey Map to them and seeing how they might use it. So, you know, maybe we'll add some videos and some other content to help people onboard to the product itself. But I think in general, you can get in there pretty easily. And again, you don't have to worry about breaking anything and whatever, it's, you can feel pretty comfortable just clicking around like, oh, I get it, in general, I get how to use this product.
So right now, are you mostly going to companies where you have some sort of connections, you know somebody?
We know someone, there's already a trust there, a relationship. Maybe they're feeling some of these pains we talked about, and they want some kind of solution. They're willing to ride the white lightning and try a new product. So
Eventually, how will you do that? So you can get a bunch of customers all at once?
yeah, I think we're going to go through kind of the inbound marketing approach. Zach's working on that right now with one of our marketing guys. We'll do Google AdWords, we'll do advertising, we'll get people to come in and sign up for content. We can look for open rates and, oh, you were interested in this, call them up, would you like a trial, do webinars, that sort of thing. So I think that's a way to scale the business beyond just, our circle of friends.
Yeah, there's really 3 channels that we're taking. So we're going to do digital marketing. We're also creating a sales team, and then also channel partners to help us distribute the product to some of their clients.
I think Zach has a channel partner who's on deck now. They're kind of our first channel partners, so they're a pretty big national kind of training group. So I think that will be part of their catalog, but I mean, that's kind of our first foray into a channel partnership. Yes?
Do you have a mobile option?
We do, yeah. So we've got iOS and Android, and then mobile web too. But yeah, those are out there.
How are you structuring your demos or with partners? There are certain things that you're rolling out first to them, or kind of how's that different than just giving them the product?
Oh, like a pilot.
Or pilot, right. Yeah.
They can, when they get it, they can use the whole product. It's really all there for them.
Okay.
We've thought about the idea, are there certain features you shut off if they're not really interested in those? But you don't have to use them, they're just sort of there in the background. But the 3 features really support each other. As you start using it, that knowledge base and the idea of spaces, the idea of a journey map, you talk about your journey in the space and through the chat channels, and then as you're doing these things, like there's things you're going to want to save and come back to later, so it makes sense you have a place to kind of put them for yourself and then your team members long term. So that's why the knowledge base is really important. And then again, then you go back, where am I in my journey? What's the next thing I need to do? Kind of that idea of being on a quest with people is really important. So they don't have to use Journey Map, they don't have to use the knowledge base, they could just use Spaces, they could just use the chat. But if they just want to use chat, then I don't know, go use Slack. Slack's probably a better chat product, to be honest with you.
So that actually was my next question. Are you having a concern because you're trying to do 3 different, essentially what you're showing is 3 different products, right? You have a Journey Map, which is kind of an HR product, kind of go, hey, tell us what you want to do. And it's also personal as well as something that you would assume that an HR person wants to see. So if this person wants to, become the head of sales, that is something important for HR to know, right? And to make sure that they're training that person. So that's an HR product. There's a lot of good HR products.
Yep.
Then you have the chat side, which you just said, Slack is a better platform there, right? And then the third part you had was, I forgot, what was your third one?
The brain.
The brain, so that's a knowledge base, right? And there's hundreds of different companies that have either ingrown or they've bought. Like I know Epic has an ingrown one, PwC they had an ingrown one. So then probably the mid-sizes probably don't have anything. They probably just, when they lose an employee, just walks out the door. I think Nordic has a pretty good internal knowledge data center. So do you have a hard time trying to convince someone who's like, well, each of those products are separate products to us, and how are you gonna tell us that this one product will supplant all of them when each of them have infinitely better options right now, right? So
I don't know if they're infinitely better, but yeah.
Sure.
Well, but their intent is really different. I think it's the intent. Like, why are you getting a chat product? Just again, we see chat as really plumbing, and it's necessary but not sufficient to ensure a culture kind of emerges and happens. So if culture and employee connection and engagement and innovation is really the forefront of what you want to do, then you look to our product. If you just want people to have a thing that they can talk to each other with, yeah, go to that. But you're right, in terms of design and development, the temptation is to, oh my God, Slack's product, you can put all these, emoticons and all this other stuff in there, got to do that. But then you're trying to then you become Jive, right? Then you're all things to all people. Oh, you can track work in here actually as well, because we have people ask us, can this be a project management tool? Sure, but I'm not going to put a Gantt chart tool in there and all this other stuff. So I think really sticking to your vision of what problems do you want to solve and how do you want to address them, I think is really key, because otherwise you can go chasing these things and try to put too much development effort into a better chat tool or a knowledge base. And I think our knowledge base will be better in the sense that it's going to be, again, be more humanistic. I think the way people store and retrieve knowledge now is kind of clumsy. It doesn't feel right. And I think I believe that to have a better workforce, you really have to get in touch with sort of the empathetic kind of nature of human beings. And I think that's what we're trying to get at with our product.
So you mean like storing a file under like 10 folders is not the most ideal?
No. Directory trees and other things, you know, it doesn't work for me. So, any other questions? Oh, we got one over there.
Does it integrate with, I know you mentioned SharePoint and Salesforce previously, or is it only picking up knowledge on what you fed?
You can put links in there, so it's not like combing like SharePoint to look for new updates or anything like that. So when you say does it integrate, possibly, but I'd have to really understand like what's the use case there, what you really want to do. But you can embed.
Well, kind of like what he had mentioned before, when an employee leaves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have a solid CRM or a Salesforce, you have a wealth of knowledge that's sitting there, right?
Yes,
you just have to tap into it. But if it was learning as you went along, based on every piece that employee was touching over time, that's going to build a better model.
Absolutely. I think the idea of some sort of smart system, like an AI, so to speak, that's learning as you go. Maybe that's like the version 3. We've thought about that. That's a very difficult thing to create. It goes beyond, I think, where we are today. It's really more mechanical Turk. Like we are learning with each other, and you're able to self-identify when something is important. And when you look at the sort of the flow of your conversation or the things that are in the space or the things that are in your chat channel, you're able to actually grab those and be like, oh, I'm gonna keep that for later and kind of put it in my back pocket. You can actually pin stuff and grab it and move it, which is kind of nice. Just sort of select what you want, and the rest is just, we're talking about daycare over here. But then you mentioned this thing that was really important related to these customers that we need to reach out to them to save that. So you're able to self-select. You are the AI in this system at this present time, I guess. Kind of a workaround.
So we always like to wrap up presentations by asking, what can we as the community in Million Cups do for you, apart from if we're owners of companies size between 20 and 500 people? What can we do? How can we help?
Well, first of all, thank you for listening and asking good questions and helping pressure test our ideas. Just spread the word if you could. If you think that there's some organization would be interested in using it or trying it, please send them our way. We'd be grateful. And likewise, if we can be a resource for you, we will reciprocate. So.
Well, thank you so much, Scott and Zach. I'm sure they'll stick around for a bit. Thank you.